Hello and welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into anything, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/Drive-In Double Feature podcast.
You know
Nathan, I
Nathan.
would, yeah, well, I was over at my local fishing pier the other day, and
Hmm.
I was out to, just cast out a couple lines, just, not really planning on catching anything or whatever, just going to have a nice relaxing day of fishing. And
Yeah.
there's a guy next to me. He had his rod, and they had one headphone in, and he had the other one kind of dangling, and he had it playing really loud so I could hear. And he was actually listening to our Patreon podcast that we have over there. Where we
Wow.
have some fun flick fights, conversations, maybe talk about a couple of BuzzFeed quiz. Who knows? It's really fun. And I said, "Oh, you listen to Driving Double Feature podcast?" I hear he's like, "Yeah." It's like it's only $5 a month. And I said, "Yeah, that's a great deal." He said, "Yeah, I wonder if Ryan and Nathan know how much I love them." And I said, "I think they know." And and
Hmm.
and then I caught a big fish.
Oh, you caught a big fish? Hell yeah. Well, good thing he wasn't listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, our arch nemesis. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
we're coming for you, Joe. We're right behind you.
Yeah, we're gonna beat you in ratings soon, Joe. We'll get there.
But anyway, it is only $5 a month. Doesn't affect any regular content. But today we are talking about 1988's Vibes, and that's directed by Ken Kwapis.
What a
Now,
name.
he actually's directed like quite a lot. He's actually a really
Yeah.
prolific TV director. I think he's like got like the distinction of like he's directed I think he directed like the pilot of The Office, if
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It looks like I just looked it up, but he did the pilot, but he also did 13 episodes in total. He's done a lot of work, like Malcolm in the Middle, Bernie Mac
Hmm.
show, all the classic sitcoms.
Yeah, he's a very prolific TV director. He directed a couple of movies. I remember, I think the one I always think of is Follow That Bird that he directed.
Oh yeah, the Sesame Street movie.
Yeah, and I think he directed that and like that Kevin Bacon movie, like He Said, She Said or
Yeah.
something. So,
He made Dunstan checks in. So
oh, well, then who am I to judge of what a career he had? But
and License to Wed. Remember that one? The Robin
I,
Williams, John Krasinski movie.
I don't remember it because I avoided that one. But
Yes, I've never seen it, but I remember the poster.
oh, well, the famous Robin Williams one I remember is Man of the Year. But
Oh yeah, God, everyone loves that one.
yeah. But anyway, getting off track. But
Yes.
this one it's a comedy movie, supposedly. But it's stars Jeff Goldblum and of course known for her acting, Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah,
And
one great acting chops in the Goonies music video.
yeah, and this one they play two psychics that they each have their own like innate abilities. And how the movie starts is that they're actually in like a study, like kind of like like study area where they're trying to study different psychics. And here in this world, like having psychic ability is apparently like no big deal. Like
Mhm. Yeah,
it,
everybody. It's like a party trick almost. It's
it is. It's like
mhm.
people have psychic abilities. There's more than one, or like lots of people all have psychic abilities, and they do like the little game that they did in Ghostbusters, where it's like they hold up with a card, and it's like,
Which
what
is
is it?
so
Wavy
funny
line.
because you referenced that before the cards from Ghostbusters, and I saw
Well,
them here, and I was like, oh wow.
well, I mean, like, because they do. I mean, to be fair, I think that is like a common thing that like
Yes.
people do.
Yeah.
So, but I've always remembered that scene from Ghostbusters in the very
Um,
beginning where he's holding up the cards and like the guy's guessing or whatever. But
it's funny that you bring up Ghostbusters though, because I guess while they were making this movie, they were coining it as like kind of like Ghostbusters but with sidekicks. And Dan Aykroyd was actually asked to be in this movie. I love how the Wikipedia puts it. I thought it was really funny. Let me get it. Yeah, it's just yeah, okay. So Dan Aykroyd and Cyndi Lauper met to talk about the movie. Dan Aykroyd decided he wasn't interested anymore. So I don't. I
see,
want to know what happened.
Probably him. He's probably like, oh, this is not accurate to psychic abilities, so I do not want to be in a movie that
Yes.
doesn't portray psychic abilities.
Or maybe it was a bad script. Who knows?
I I don't know. Dan Aykroyd's like enough of a weirdo with some of that stuff. I could
Yes, he
imagine him being
is.
like that's like these are not accurate
This is
psychic
not.
abilities. I do not want to be in this.
I do not approve. Yeah, but then he'll be in like the worst garbage
Yeah,
imaginable.
nothing but trouble. It's like, oh yes, this masterpiece.
Well, yeah, that's like his dream movie.
Yeah. Uh, but basically how it is like Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum are the two with the best psychic abilities, each having their own skills. And like Cyndi Lauper actually has like a ghost
Yeah,
that follows
spirit.
her named Louise, and
Hmm.
she's able to like tell her things about certain people or
Hmm.
use basically like ghost type of abilities. And then Jeff Goldblum has an ability where if he touches an object that has personal effect to somebody, like he knows exactly what it's about and like who's it tied to and everything, and they're kind of deemed as like these people that have the best psychic abilities for this type of for this study. And they really want them to like stay and help out with the study and like, oh, we really want you to, but Jeff Goldblum is just like, I don't want any part of this, I just want to live a normal life type of thing. And
Hmm.
uh he has like a really funny but like probably the funniest part of the movie for me at least was like
Hmm.
Jeff Goldblum just trying to live like a normal life.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I like those bits too, but like just him touching an item, just just like be like, oh dang it, I wish I never did that. Because Cyndi Lauper is like, she's looking for a good man. That's like her whole shtick. She's never had a good man in her life, so she kind of like hits on the lead psychic doctor dude and talks to Jeff Goldblum, and she's like, well, Luis told me that your girl is cheating on you. He's like, no, that's not possible. I would have seen it, and then he grabs her underwear later that night, and he's like, "Oh my God, I see it. There's another man who touched these." But
he's
I like his girlfriend's reaction of like, "I knew I should have thrown them away."
yeah, well, because she's like aware that he has psychic abilities, and it's like she's like, oh, my those belong to my father. My father gave me those. And like, was your father like a goalie, like for for a hockey team, or and from Russia, like, and,
Yeah.
and
No, that was one of the funnier bits. So was his job at the museum, where
oh, that
that
was great. Yeah,
yeah, where like the museum director's like, I've got the shareholders here, and I need you to distract them by grabbing their items and telling them information.
yeah. It's like basically he's like a party. It's like a party trick. He's just like just grab like I'm gonna like our trustees are gonna show up. I need you to hold each of their items, but he just gets bothered by people all day long. Like people will come up to him and be like, "Hey Nick, like I like this salmon doesn't look right. Can you touch it to see if
Yes, yeah.
like how like who's been touching it? Okay." And he like just grabs Jeff Goldblum's hand, like forces it on his food.
Yes, yeah. And then I think the same thing with a car, right? It's like, oh, they sold me a car that supposedly had this many miles. Can you touch it and tell me if it's
Yeah.
true? Which that actually sounds like a great power. If I had those powers, I would definitely abuse them for money. 100%.
Oh yeah. I mean, but yeah, it's just such a bother to Jeff Goldblum. He just like
Hmm.
doesn't even want anything to do with it. But the real plot to this movie, unfortunately, coming out is just um that when Cyndi Lauper gets home, she ends up running into Peter Falk or Columbo is there
Hmm.
and basically just snuck in her apartment. Just
Yeah. And she has a shotgun, by the way, and has it up to him because an old boyfriend left it for him. And it's full of jokes where she's like, "Oh, I don't know I didn't know what I expected from my boyfriend named, I don't know, it'd be like Torchy or something like that."
oh yeah, well, see that's the other thing too is that apparently her boyfriend was Steve Buscemi.
Oh yeah, which
Oh,
is crazy, and it's such a small part. I was expecting him to come back. And of course, Steve Buscemi isn't like that famous at this point, but like it was just surprising to see him like in a big talking role, but only for one scene of the movie.
yeah, he's only in one scene because he plays Cyndi Lauper's ex,
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically just like, I'm a changed man. I just want you to come in and just help me win these horse races,
Mm-hmm.
basically like. So she kind of helps him, and then turns out like no, he was actually there with somebody else. He's like, oh well, thank you so much. Like, as friends, we are friends.
Uh-huh. Yes,
But
yeah. And Louise the whole time is telling Cindy, what is her character's name? Sylvia Piquel, that's right.
mhm.
And then Nick Deasy, good God. But Sylvia, she doesn't really listen to Louise as much as you'd expect for an all-knowing spirit following her around.
Yeah, it's there's so many situations in there. I'm like they have such incredible powers at their abilities, but I don't feel like they use it enough.
No, yeah, because I mean they get taken by which we'll go back to that scene with Columbo showing up, Peter Falk, and
He's
he
Columbo.
yeah, sorry, Columbo. I'll just say Columbo. But his son has gone missing in Ecuador, is what he tells them, and that they need to get together and go down there and find him. And so they get tricked by this, and they go to Ecuador, and it takes them a good chunk of time to figure this one out, which is crazy because for me, I mean, it's a comedy movie, so whatever. But it's also like I knew immediately that's not what's going
Uh,
on.
well, and they have, I don't know, like, especially since he broke into her apartment,
Hmm.
and you're thinking like, okay, well, why couldn't you just use the psychic ability just to see if he was lying or not there?
Hmm.
I mean, but he was just like, if you help me, I got $50,000, and it's just like, okay, I'm sold type of
Yeah.
thing.
And that convinces Jeff Goldblum as well. Like, I mean, he takes a little more convincing, but they still go out there together as like a team to hunt for his son, which soon we realize is actually just Peter Falk looking for a hidden lost city of gold.
Well, yeah, and it's like he gets there, well, they get there and like right away, Jeff Goldblum's able to touch like something of a personal effect, and immediately he's just like, no, he was like, I forget what he said. He was like, oh, like this belonged to a much older man. This couldn't be your son. He's like, oh, did I say my son? I meant my father. I'm Harry Jr. And like we're going looking for Harry Sr.
I guess,
And
yeah. And he's like, he's like, yeah, I was adopted by him. I
yeah,
like all this stuff. Now, see, the Peter Falk at least has presence. He's good. I think Jeff Goldblum, in his own Goldblum way, is at least interesting. I don't know if I love Cyndi Lauper that much. I don't know. Maybe it's the voice. I don't know.
yeah. And we see Nick Geezy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little hard to watch.
She's not known for her acting, and that there's a reason why she didn't really have much of an acting career.
Yes, yeah. This is kind of
Uh,
where it. I mean, she's in stuff every once in a while.
yeah, but I do like Peter Falk in this. I mean, I do think, like you said, he does have a screen presence to him, and he's probably the most entertaining part of this movie for me
Mm-hmm.
because
Because
he's at least trying really hard to
yeah,
like,
and he plays his character well of kind of a shyster, somebody who's trying to trick them every step of the way, and like just like there's like a guy there that's their guide, who knows about this city, but he doesn't want them to see him because he's just like like almost in a coma in a hospital. So it's like him trying his hardest to make sure they don't end up at the hospital. He's trying to trick them, and I think yeah, he plays that role very well. Um,
yeah,
but like
because they were like, oh, let's go to the hospital, and they're like, he's like, why don't we just go to the bar? We'll go to the hospital tomorrow, type of thing.
exactly, yeah. Which they do. Do. Uh, but I think you're right when you said this. You said like, unfortunately, this movie gains this like plot, and I do think that is the weakest element of this movie is the Indiana Jones style plot.
I would have much preferred. I mean, I'm like, I don't really like that this like it turns like into this big international, like, oh, we got to find this big lost city of gold or
Hmm.
whatever. I mean, like to me, it's like it's interesting enough to have these characters that are psychics doing psychic things, or maybe they could have encountered like other evil psychics or something,
Yeah.
and it could have turned into like this big like ordeal type of thing. But instead, it's like it kind of turns out more like a really, really low par Indiana Jones, where it's just
Mhm.
like, well, what if we did Indiana Jones but with psychics
Yeah,
type of thing?
but they don't even utilize it in enough fun ways, right? And I was willing to stick with this movie because even the stuff in town in Ecuador, whenever they're hanging out the hotel, kind of trying to date people, sleep with people, I was like, okay, this is fun enough. It's silly. I think, and we'll get into it later. I think the back half, like those last 30 minutes, once they
Oh,
actually
it's
get to the
rough.
City of Gold, yeah, I was. I'm honest. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I was out of it. Like this movie, I could have cared less about the
Mm.
last half of the movie. I was just like, nah. There was just something about it. It just wasn't interesting at all.
It really dragged during that whole last bit for me. I mean, like I was kind of on board, like I said, with
Yeah.
the psychics and the premise about that. And like you said, like they did have some fun interactions when they get into Ecuador, because there is a scene where like this woman tries to sleep with Jeff Goldblum and then she
Mhm.
tries to murder him, but then she just falls out of a window.
Yes, yeah. Or like the man, Jeff Goldblum's freaking out because a man was trying to sleep with Cyndi Lauper, and he thinks, oh no, he's going after her, and he like hits him from behind and like attacks him, and come to find out, oh no, he's there. He's like a leader. He's like a political leader, and he just attacked this guy. So he gets in even more trouble. Little stuff like that. There's some fun there.
Yeah, but then it kind of, when you start revealed who like the actual bad guys are, like one of them was actually like at the very, very beginning of the movie, there was a psychic that was one of like the other psychics in that study, and he thought like he was going to be the most brilliant psychic there, but
Mhm.
he got kind of perturbed when it wasn't him and it was Jeff Goldblum that got picked. So he was just like, it's preposterous. But then he does arrive to Ecuador to kind of foil their plans, and because he
Mhm.
wants to find the lost city of gold. And during that time, they do manage to get away from him because he has a gun pointed at him, but because Cyndi Lauper gets Louise to possess that guy's dead mother.
Yeah, yeah, and she becomes or yeah, his dead mother and sings like a Swedish lullaby or wherever he's from.
Yeah, so he's just like, "Oh my God, it's Mama," and just
Yeah, and
uh,
and then he like I forget. Do they knock him out? Well, all I remember is that they have to
that
carry.
that
Oh
no,
God,
it was the because there was that big nurse that was
that's
there, like that big
right.
manly looking nurse. Because I forget what he said. Like there was like a joke in there, like this one nurse like looks like this big dude, or oh yeah, it was like. It's like, oh yeah, I think I saw your movie. It was called Conan the Nurse or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
And and then because the his name is Ingo, and he shoots that nurse, but like the nurse apparently was like, she's such a beast, she got shot, and then she just like jumps up and like just hits like clobbers him with a chair.
Yeah, that's right. And then Cyndi Lauper can't stop reciting this like Swedish lullaby, so she has to be like picked up like a plank and walked out of there.
Hmm.
Hmm. Um, but yeah, and no, and like you said, that bad guy's there, and then come to find out, the leader of the psychic meeting that we saw at the beginning of the movie is also a bad guy who's also going for treasure. He was using the psychics for that as well as Peter Falk. So everybody in on this wanted psychics to figure out where this lost city of gold was.
Well, yeah, he kills Peter Falk, and
Which
I'm like,
sucks. I When that happened, I was like, oh man, oh no. Like I seriously was like, oh, this sucks.
and that's like you said, that's where like the movie just like dropped, like
Uh-huh,
it
like
just,
instantly.
but because like like they want you to like be, I don't know, like invested in this last half, but it's like these are two bad guys, and I'm just like, but I mean, like I really don't care about them as bad guys because it's just like they do like this big final reveal, like it was the guy running the study the whole time. I'm like, Okay,
Yeah,
like
I don't. Yeah, I don't think there's. I think this movie felt like it had a lot more stakes than it did. Like at least from the script, I'm sure whoever wrote the script thought like, yeah, this is it. This is the twist we all need. But as an audience member, I'd forgotten about this guy completely, and he pops up, and I was like, oh, okay, that's not that big of a deal. I get it. And then it
yeah.
becomes like a hostage movie where they take them hostage. They get to the lost city, which is like they have that treasure there that they that's like you don't want to mess with. It could destroy the earth.
It it's the same ending you've seen in every Indiana Jones movie. It's like Indiana Jones and like Marion Ravenwood or whatever are like captured by the bad guys, and then like
Mhm.
that's when all like the supernatural stuff starts happening at the end of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. It is like the first one. It's a lot like Raiders in a way. Like instead of an arc, it's this like triangle, the
Mhm.
pyramid thing that lights up, and Cindy has like a spirit running through her. She's saying stuff. Um, yeah, I mean,
I mean,
yeah.
it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty much just like the ending of Raiders, where it's like this big pyramid opens, a big power surge
Mhm,
goes through, and like Jeff Goldblum and Cyndi Lauper both use like their psychic abilities to kind of contain this pyramid while the
mhm.
bad guys end up dying. And because of this, Cyndi Lauper loses the her Louise, but
Yes, yeah.
and that's kind of where you think where like the movie's going to end. They go back to the hotel and they're like they start falling in love, I guess. And that's the other thing, like the chemistry between these two is because they like try to like I don't like they kind of go for like this like bickering like lovers or whatever like at the very beginning of the movie because they don't get along at all because there's they do have like some other fun interactions like in town like where like Cindy Lauper like they start like kind of like bantering. It's like, oh, like your hair is so big or whatever. Like
Hmm.
like they're just making fun of each other, but they really haven't shown any like real romantic moments between these two, I would say. And it's just so it's just like, oh well, since you're a man and I'm a woman, we're the leads, we're in love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We love each other now. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. There's that long scene where there's the glass on the table and Jeff Goldblum holds it. And he's like, there's a girl that touched this that's in love with me and like has feelings for me, but is too afraid to say it. That kind of speech. And then the stinger is like, she's like, oh, I never touched that like.
And he's like, I gotta go look for that waiter.
Yeah. So no, it gets revealed that they are in love, and then it also gets revealed the ending stinger. She has Columbo as a spirit at the end of the movie. That's yep.
That's
Wow.
perfect.
That would be pretty cool, actually. You could solve a lot of things.
She just walks into like all these cases and just starts like smoking cigars and just like, oh, just one more thing.
Yeah, exactly. Just one more thing. Yeah.
But I mean, as whatever enjoyment I got out of the first one, it is not enough to outweigh the second half of this movie. I mean, for me, it's like very lackluster. Like I just did not care
Mhm.
by the end of this movie. I was kind of hoping for like a little more lightheartedness maybe, but I just why there was so much stakes involved in this movie, or like while they thought there was so much stakes involved is what
Yeah.
I should say.
Hmm.
I just to me it's like they went like they were trying to make this a way bigger deal than it needed to be. So I would have preferred a much smaller scale, like I said before, like maybe like other psychics interacting with other psychics and it's like they're using their abilities against each other type of thing. I would have liked to have seen that more, but instead it turns into an Indiana Jones ripoff, which I'm not really a fan of. I've seen it so many times before now. I'm just like I don't really care. So
Yeah.
for me, I would not give this a recommend at all. I can see why now I don't see a lot of people talking about this one.
Yeah, I mean, and nobody saw it. It cost 18 million and only made 1.8 million. That is
Oh
a
God.
yeah, it's a bomb. But yeah, no, I agree. I like, kind of just what you said. It's just they went the wrong way. They had an idea with sidekicks and making it a comedy. That's a funny idea, but why you mixed it with an adventure Indiana Jones style movie, I will never understand. I think that was such a bad move. And it just ends up being very weak. Just kind of okay at best if you can get through the beginning, which is pretty decent, into like a bad back half.
There's some, I got some moments of enjoyment of it, so it's not the worst thing by any means, but at the same time, it's not worth your time.
No, yeah, I don't recommend this one.
But I think that's going to do it for this one. So Nathan, what are we going to be talking about next week?
All right, Ryan, we are going to be talking about Pennies from Heaven, which is not streaming anywhere. So if you want to watch that with us, you will have to pay. But
Hey, pay up.
pay up. Pay. It's
But
not pennies. I'm telling you that much.
pay $4 from heaven. But
Yeah.
and perfect. Well, our other movie, Nathan, we're going to be talking about that week is going to be the movie Cutting Class. And that one is for free on Tubi right now.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for listening to us. If you have any thoughts and opinions, please email us over at drivingdoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/drivingdoublefeaturepodcast. But until next time.
Until next time.